Today we're going to be canning chard. This chard came from the greenhouse into the raised beds and also from the garden. The first thing I always do is take and wash all these leaves off. Get them washed off real good. Now into the greenhouse, into the raised beds, into the greenhouse, I have hardly any dirt at all, if any. Now in the garden I have to specifically do a lot of washing with the ones that came out of the garden, because there's a lot of sand that hits these leaves when it rains. So the next step after I get them all washed up is then I start deveining them. I got my pot going. I put a little bit of water, probably about 2 quarts in here of water. I've got it set up on 7 back there. Of course, your stove might be differently. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is just wilting these leaves. Now, I have deveined these. Deveining is taking the middle out of the leaf. Now, most of mine are tender, but I'll just go ahead and take the ones I think is tough. And then by doing that, then it breaks these leaves apart so they can go into my pot. Now I usually use a wooden spoon, and I just keep turning this in here to get these leaves kind of mixed up. Just turn it so the ones that's on the bottom that's wilting or wilted will go to the top, and then I'll keep doing it until all these leaves have just been wilted enough to get into my jars. So I've took my wooden spoon here and I've turned it. Sometimes I have to use my hand. This is not too hot yet, even though the steam is coming up. And that's basically what it's doing, is steaming these leaves to create them to wilt. This one right here is starting to wilt, and that's what I'm looking for. I don't want my leaves cooked. I'm just getting them to a place to wilt. And this right here, this pot, these leaves will go really far down, so it won't be as many leaves in here. And it's already gone down, but it won't be as many leaves in here when it gets to a place that all the leaves are wilted. So we can see it's already going down. The leaves are already going down. I do this about every 2 or 3 minutes, if that long. Just constantly turn these leaves over so that these leaves can get wilted. So this takes about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your heat. I've already cut it on off because there's enough heat in there to continue to wilt the rest of these leaves right here. And all I got to do is take my wooden spoon, flip it over, and get the bottom onto the top. Into this canner right here, this is an electric canner. Very easy. It's Presto. It's the easiest canner I've ever seen to can. If you're interested in canning, I would invest in one of these. They're well worth it. It doesn't intimidate you. It's stressless. Even probably a child could do it once they learn the ropes on how to do it. It has a manual paper that's coated. It just step-by-step instructions. So the chard is going to be going for 90 minutes. So this right here shows that it's canning, and it's got 71 minutes to go. We have everything we need to go ahead and start this canning process. We've got a debubbler. I like to use one of these prongs right here to help pick up the Swiss chard or whatever I'm using into my pot. I got my jars ready. You want your jars, you don't have to have them super hot. Warm is fine. This is warm. It's going to warm up the jars. I have my lids ready. I have my salt ready with the measuring spoons according to my jar size. If I was doing pints, I would use a ½ teaspoon. Now that I'm doing quarts, I'll be using 1 teaspoon. And what I like to do is go ahead and put my salt into my jars whether even if I only use 4 jars and maybe I got 6 with salt into them, that's okay. Because most of the time with quarts, it's always 1 teaspoon of salt, and with pints, it's half a teaspoon. But I like to go ahead and put my salt into my jars so that I already know it's in there, because if I don't, I have a tendency to forget. As you can tell, the Swiss chard has wilted down really good. We got a little bit of juice in there. We put 2 quarts of water in there, and this pot was filled up with Swiss chard. I'll go ahead and put my salt into my jars. My jars are clean, they're sterilized. And after this, we're just going to take our tongs. This is a chopstick, is what I use. You know, you're going to use something for a debubbler. And I also use it to help sometimes to get this into the jar. This is definitely going to heat up this jar. We're not say trying to pack it. We're basically just getting it into the jars. Another thing I like to do, no matter what I'm canning, is put some little bit of water or juice in there. Now I have an electric kettle that's got water. It's already heated up in case I need it. I'm basically just kind of moving that chard around. I try to take as small pieces as I can so it'll be easier to get in there and less, say, packing. When you finish the canning, it'll look like all the chard is at the top. Eventually it will settle. And most time when I clean my jars after canning with soap and water or hot water, sometimes I'll shake these jars to get that chard to kind of, sometimes it'll go up into like a ball, and I'll shake the jars. It'll put air bubbles in there, but it'll go away. Let's see, I'm gonna put a little bit more. And basically I'm just taking this debubbler here and just moving that chard around. I'm gonna put on my cup a little bit of chard juice in here. Sometimes if I'm slack and a little bit of juice in there, I'll just add, say, a little bit more, and it'll bring it my level. I'm going 1 inch headspace. I always go to that ring right there, which is below this funnel here. Now it's debubbling time. I like to, first of all, move this chard around a little bit because it is leaves and it has a tendency to want to kind of pack, and I want to make sure that I'm getting this air bubbles out. I'm going to go on the side. Most time you can see, I see air bubbles. Most time you can see air bubbles coming up. You want to try to debubble as much as possible. I do notice with like spinach and chard and mustard greens, it has a tendency to want to pack it really hard at the bottom. So I like to just move that chard or mustard or spinach around, help to make sure it's getting, kind of separates it a little bit, but it also makes sure it's getting some good water or your juice around those leaves. Kind of, it helps to get those air bubbles out also. So whenever you debubble, your fluid, your water, your juice has a tendency to start dropping, because once those bubbles start coming out, then those air comes out and then the water level drops. So we do see that it's dropped a little bit, and actually that's okay, but if I can, which is 99.7%, I'll add a little bit more. I like to fill it up to that 1 inch mark always. So you could take a wet rag, wet paper towel. I like to use this is a napkin actually, fold it and then dip it in some vinegar and wipe my lid off. They say finger tight. I like to do it like that. Everybody's strength is differently. This works very well for me. And then after that, then once we do this, then we're ready to put it into the canner and then also start our next jar. The pints we do the exact same way. So this is what was left over into this pot right here. I put half a teaspoon of salt in here. Now, it will still be processed for 90 minutes, even though it's a pint. If it goes into this canner, then it will be processed for 90 minutes. I think it's either 70 or 75 minutes for pints. Don't hold me to that, but I think it's 75 minutes, somewhere around there, 70, 75 minutes. No more than that. But yeah, so if you got a pint you're going to be putting in there, make sure that no matter what you're canning, that it goes for the long duration time of the canning process. So we see that we've got our canner hot. It's ready to go. We're going to put this pint in there. We ended up with 3 quarts in a pint. So now we're going to put the lid on here. Let it build pressure up in here. It's going to vent out right here. And once the steam starts coming out, then we're going to vent it for 10 minutes. We're going to set our timer and then let it vent for 10 minutes. We've got our lid on there. Our temperature is set up on high so that it can build pressure so it can start venting. I already noticed a little bit of steam that's coming out. I can feel it just a little bit, but we want to see a steady flow of steam. I like to also focus my dial right here where I'm basically going to be at, because you want to watch this dial, be consistent with it. So I like to turn my canner, make sure if I'm over here doing something, I can still glance over here and see what's going on with this dial, this pressure canner. This is an all-American canner. So we already got our weight here. We'll be going up under 10 pounds of pressure because we're 1,000 feet up under sea level. So you need to check your manual, make sure if you're supposed to put it on 10 pounds of pressure, 5 pounds of pressure, or 15. In the meantime, while that's building pressure, I have more chard here. So I'll be over here washing it, getting it washed real good to be ready for the next canning session. So yes, I could done this and put it into this canner right here, because that's probably would have held I would say probably 3 more jars. But this came out of the garden, and this has got a lot of sand on it, so I know it's going to take me longer. I want to take longer to make sure all this sand is off of these leaves here, because if you don't, then you'll be eating gritty chard, Swiss chard. The electric canner has only 33 more minutes left, so that's awesome. So it'll count down, and then when it's over, it will cool down. I don't have to do anything, and when it's done, it will tell me it's done. And then by then we'll have the rest of this chard here wilted and washed and then wilted down into a pot. Because in my other pot, I didn't have any more room to put any more Swiss chard. So that's why we didn't fill that canner up. I could have waited, and did all that, but, it's good sometimes to have 2 canners going at the same time, so you don't have to. It pretty much is going to take the same amount of time. So I just like to go ahead and work it whichever way works best. So this canner be going. I'm feeling some heat, some steam coming out. I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. Then I'm gonna put my weight on and set my timer. So our steam is coming out really steady. I don't know if you can see it. It's coming out really steady. I'm trying to get it where you can see it, but okay. So now we're going to put our weight on at 10 pounds of pressure. So we let this vented for 10 minutes. Steam was coming out of here. Good steady flow of steam. We set our timer for 10 minutes. Let this vent for 10 minutes with that steam coming out. With the steam coming out. And then after the timer goes off, then we put our weight on. We're putting it at 10 pounds of pressure. Now it's at the process of building pressure. This dial will show the pressure that's on the inside. And we'll watch this very closely. It'll go up to the 10 pounds right there. It'll go up to that 10 pounds. And that's when we'll cut our heat down. And usually I cut it around 7 or 6 and watch it very, very closely. The temperature, this poundage here doesn't drop below 10 pounds of pressure. So sometimes I have to keep it at 7, give it a few seconds or minutes, and just watch it, make sure it's not building, continue building, but staying regulated. And then I'll continue watching it, make sure it stays at 10 pounds, that it's not dropping below or rising too far up. We'll try to keep it at 10 pounds of pressure. Sometimes I can try to keep it or get it at 10 pounds of pressure and it wants to stay on 11 pounds of pressure. And that's okay because the pressure canner knows what it's doing. So now it's just a sort of waiting game. Now sometimes this climb very fast. Sometimes I've seen it climb very fast. And I've seen times it takes a little bit. So this is where we really, really watch it. Now, if you get it too high, if the pressure goes too high, this weight right here will start jiggling. Now, a little jiggle every now and then is fine, but if it's like just really going at it like a freight train, you know for sure that this pressure is too high. There's times that, you know, because it can suddenly just jump up. And I'll hear it jiggle, and I'll instantly go to this canner right here and see where it's setting at. And I'll turn it down because I know that it's at the place that it's going to do nothing but keep climbing. And it's time for me to definitely get that pressure down. Okay, we just hit our 10 pounds of pressure. Reach over here and cut this down. Cutting it on 7 for the moment. And watch it very carefully. Set my timer for 90 minutes. See if I can go back. I got caught into the steam. Let me start over. Okay. 60, 70. Whoops, 90 minutes. So our timer started. You see it's sitting about 10.5 pounds of pressure. Mind you, I just cut it down, so I got to watch it to see if it drops below that. Now, if it drops below, you got to start your timing all the way back over to 90 minutes. It's very crucial. If I see it dropping, then what I do is I turn it up a little bit. It's just got to get regulated. It's at 10 pounds of pressure. So you might need to push that up or down, that dial for your heat. Another important method is, see, I'm on coils, right? I've cooked on flat tops. Cut this down just a little bit. I've canned a lot on a flat top, and it did excellent. I never had any issues. The newer stoves, they have a tendency to heat up and go down just like a flat top, but they got it set to where if it gets too hot, it kind of cuts down. So that's where the temperature, I found out the way I do it is to keep adjusting that temperature right there. Right now it's sitting at 7. We're sitting at about 10.5 pounds of pressure, which is fine. And I always make sure that my pot is centered onto those coils right here. because it's a big pot and it's heavy. Sometimes I gotta make sure. Sometimes it's gotten set up on this, and then my temperature is not going to regulate right. So having this pot centered onto your coals is very important if you have coals like I do. We've been canning for 4 minutes. We're still regulated at 10 pounds of pressure. With this All-American, it's a 921. With this All-American, it usually about 7 minutes. It takes about 7 minutes. Usually about 7 minutes it gets regulated, where it just stays steady. But I also notice when it gets near the end of the process of this canning time, or process, then I also have noticed that sometimes this wants to go up. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. And so this is why it's very crucial to stay near the stove and watch what's going on. This is why a lot of people don't want to can, because they get intimidated. Because if you allow this, it has caution right there. If you allow this, if you are not watching it, that temperature starts rising. It'll go way up to 20 pounds of pressure and on to 30. Now, it's got a safety guard. It's got a gasket right here. So if it gets too high, that's going to blow. And it'll scare the mess out of you. Or if your gasket wears out, it'll blow. So, and that'll scare. That's how I know. Because eventually these gaskets do wear out. This doesn't have a gasket right here, but it has a little gasket right there. And you just replace them. They're very cheap. And it just blows and blows steam out, and it doesn't blow mess all over the kitchen. But that's what will happen if you got the temperature too high. This will be making an awful noise, just jiggling and pushing out steam. So that should let you know. But if in case you forgot your counter, you walk away, then what's going to happen? This will blow. But if you stay gone and you don't see what's going on, then of course, this is going to bust your jars. It's going to be a big mess. It's going to ruin your canner. Okay, this canner right here, its timing has ended. It started beeping, I think, 3 or 4 times. Lets me know that it's cool down time, and it shows cool. And I don't do nothing to this canner. It just cools down, and when it's done, ready for me to take these jars out of the canner, it'll say done. The All-American canner is still at 10 pounds of pressure. And so we got that long before this canning process is done. While those two are taking place, I've got all these washed real good. On these ones from the garden that had sand on it, so it's a lot. You have to take more time to do those, and I like to use my sprayer when I do that. And turn both sides of them, just to make sure I don't have any dirt on them. I find out that the easiest way to get this vein out, now down here I would say it's tender. I'm not even concerned about that. I just like to pull it in the opposite direction toward the base where the plant would be. And if I do that, then I have literally pulled that vein out. You see that? And then that, I just throw it in there. If you pull it the other way, it has a tendency to be more jaggedy, and you have to work harder, and you got all that. But if you turn it opposite way, then you got a clean strip here. So our water bath canner is almost filled up. That's why I went ahead and ran the other jars into the All-American so they can go ahead and be processed, because I knew that it was going to take me longer to get to this batch. So now we're just going to put about 2 quarts of water. This holds about 2 quarts. Put it in there, put it on the stove, do this repeating process, let it wilt. And then we can put them into the jars. Okay, so the All-American canner time of session for canning has expired. We're at 10 pounds of pressure. Then we're going to go over here. We're going to turn it off We stay basically around 7, the temperature around 7. And so now all it's going to do is just sit there and cool down for the dial to go down to 0. The electric canner has 5 minutes of cool down, and then it will beep to let me know that that session has ended, and then we'll be complete with this canning session. We have also got these 2 jars ready, these 2 quarts ready to can, and I'll be putting them into the electric canner when that's cooled down, and I can go ahead and get that prepared for the next session. Thank you for watching. If you've never tried chard, Swiss chard, it's really good. It reminds me of like mustard or spinach, or it's really healthy for your body. As we can tell, this dial here is already dropping pretty fast. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you on to the next video.